all so much for tuning into this premiere edition of Truth and Justice with Kelly Prather. I am Kelly Prather, your host, and my ultimate goal is to keep you inspired, encouraged, engaged, and empowered to walk in power towards your purpose. This first edition, considering that we are broadcasting live from the Busy One Entertainment Studios, it is dedicated to our fallen hero, the Vice President of Busy One Entertainment, Paris Dismukes, who sadly was taken from us at BJ's restaurant in Springdale a week or so ago. Paris was such a humble guy. I never saw Paris without a smile on his face. He was overly accommodating to me as the executive administrative assistant, to all of the DJs, to all of the individuals who would come in and record beats and do podcasts. He was the marketing director for Busy One Entertainment. He was just an all-around great guy. And so in the spirit of truth and justice, my prayer is that aside from the family finding peace beyond understanding, my prayer is that the truth comes out about what actually happened with Paris and that he and the family gets justice. These senseless acts of violence have to stop. You know, what saddens me is that this was a minority on a black crime. And, you know, from a social justice perspective, I would pray that there would be, or I would have assumed that there would be more of a community outrage. But because this was a Filipino gentleman who who took Paris from our midst. This was a Filipino gentleman who took a black man from the midst. You're not hearing the public outcry as we would if this were a Filipino gentleman who murdered a white gentleman. All too often, when you see black on black crime, or when you see a black man either gunned down or murdered in the streets, you know, it's like, oh, well, it's like something that is supposed to happen. And it's not. This was a cruel, disheartening, unconscionable act. And I pray that the Dismukes, Cobb, and Wright family get the justice that they need and the resolve that they need so that Paris can rest peacefully. Aside from that, you know, there's a lot going on in terms of the elections. We are in the midst of an election season, and, you know, there's so much going on, especially where BJ's is concerned. BJ's restaurant sits in the midst of a major development project. Those of you who know me from the West End, you know that I talked about a lot of the indiscretions and a lot of the weird things that were going on in that area where these $200 to $300 million development projects were taking place. And so, you know, I want you to look at this scenario, look at Paris's case with an open lens and an open mind, look at it in a way that I guess you would use your investigatory processes or your subconscious to kind of analyze what's going on. And so without giving too much of the case, I will say that on the date of the arraignment, the family, I attended, I went to the arraignment just after they decided that the individual who committed this heinous act would get, I believe, a $500,000 bond. He did have a minor misdemeanor drug charge that was tossed out. It was tossed out, okay. And he was charged with murder. My concern as a professional, my concern as someone who has worked with an all-male forensic population and with individuals who have substance abuse and mental illness problems is that all evidence is relevant. To my understanding, the way that BJ's restaurant handled this particular case, it screams foul play. As far as the minor drug charge that was thrown out, in light of the fact that the individual who committed this crime said that there were witches telling him to stab Paris for his personal safety, that raises concerns to me, because having worked in an environment with individuals who had substance abuses and mental illnesses, every bit of evidence is relevant. From a clinical standpoint, I would have assumed that there would have been a toxicology report. They would have tested whatever was in this gentleman's system to determine if the substance had anything to do with his acts, or if in fact he has a mental illness. Now, inquiring minds want to know, will this individual who committed this heinous crime, will he get off? Will he beat this case based on the fact that he can say, hey, I'm not guilty by reason of insanity or incompetent to stand trial? Or if he will be called on the rug, and if the family will get justice for him taking Paris away from us. There's a lot to think about. But my concern as a loved one of Paris is that, in the fact that they threw out this charge, is will they even take a look at that evidence? Will that even come into play where sentencing is concerned? And so there's a lot to think about it. As you all can see, I am full. I'm full. I don't want to taint anything as it relates to this case, but we need the truth to come out, and we also need justice for Paris. As it relates to elections, ironically, where elections are concerned, you have individuals who are the collateral damage of sensationalized news stories or headline news stories that they want to put out there. If you take a look at the fact that this individual was Filipino, you could look at immigration reform, and whether or not, like the Democrats, they want to be welcoming and have opening arms for everyone, and the Republicans are saying, well, former President Donald Trump was saying, let's build a wall, which I think was nonsensical. But we really need to take a look at comprehensive immigration reform and see, what we would be dealing with if we just embrace everyone with open arms. What about the safety of the individuals who live right here in this country? What about that? We have to look at whether or not we're allowing individuals who have true substance abuse mental illnesses into this country without doing a comprehensive psychological background check and knowing what they are capable of. In this case, this case proved deadly. This case with Paris Dismukes proved deadly, and again, we want the truth to come out, and we want justice. We want an attorney who's going to cover every nook and cranny, or cover all bases where where the evidence is concerned, and again, get justice for Paris's mom and dad. So my prayers go out to the Cobb, Wright, and Dismukes family. I want to pray that we get the justice that we need for Paris, and I want to take a fine-tooth comb over some of the other issues as it relates to what we need as a society. Again, immigration reform. We need to look at chemical addiction, the substance abuse. From my understanding, this individual was also addicted to methamphetamines, and I'm not really versed on methamphetamines, but I do understand that individuals who abuse meth, they believe that the witches are speaking directly to them. I don't know what it is about this particular drug, but they always discuss witches. I don't know. But we'll take a closer look at the CARES Act. I know Senator Rob Portman in 2020 wrote out the CARES Act, and it was to deal with the opioid addiction and substance abuse. You know, I think back now, for those of you who have followed me in my journey and the fact that I talked about the unjust mass incarceration rates of Black and brown citizens as it related to how they were fed crack cocaine like they were children, like they were kids being fed candy in a candy shop, and they were given access to funds, money, the ability with this crack cocaine that they would not have been able to make otherwise, right? And individuals who were addicted to crack cocaine were not, there was a lack of compassion for individuals who were addicted to crack cocaine. They were seen as the wrong element, the undesirables of society, and they were locking individuals who were addicted to crack cocaine away. Now, again, I referenced in 2020, the CARES Act of 2020, where Senator Rob Portman starts saying, well, we need to have more compassion for individuals who are addicted to opioids and individuals who are addicted to methamphetamines. And a keen social justice activist would say, it's because that is not the drug of choice for individuals from the Black and brown community. And so, you know, there's a lot to look at here. There's a lot to look at here where we are talking about substance abuse, mental illness, immigration reform, these development projects. You know, the one thing I've often heard is, you follow the money, you will find the corruption. Again, this is another multi-million-dollar development deal. Paris, as I indicated, was the marketer, the vice president, and pretty much the brand ambassador for Busy One Entertainment. And so Paris essentially, along with the other DJs and show hosts, had the ability to get information out to the masses. And so an inquiring mind would wonder, why Paris? Why Paris? You know, but when you connect the dots, it just makes it plain. It makes sense. It makes sense. You connect the dots, you follow the money, you will find the corruption. And I am certain that if the attorney who represents the Cobb, Dismukes, and Wright family, if they do their due diligence, we will find that there's a lot more to this story than what's being covered. So again, thank you so much for tuning in to this first edition, this premiere edition of Truth and Justice with Kelly Prather. I'm going to talk a lot about elections. I'm going to talk about what's going on in the community. I'm going to bring professionals in. It's going to be a bit entertaining, and I'm excited. So thank you so much for tuning in to this edition. As always, I leave you with grace, faith, and peace. God bless. Have a wonderful day, and stay tuned.